Hey everyone, welcome back for another 1/6 scale unboxing and review. I am pumped for today's video. I finally get to unbox Iron Man Mark 85 from Avengers Endgame. This will be the first of many figure unboxings from the Marvel franchise, and if you happen to watch my last video, you already know that I've also picked up Captain America, Thor, and Thanos. Basically, the most popular of the Avengers gang and their greatest villain. So just like the Marvel franchise kicked off with Iron Man, I'm going to begin my Avengers journey unboxing the greatest and latest Iron Man in 1/6 scale size. So with all that said, let's get into this and take a closer look at the box. First off, I just want to say that I really love the artwork and design of this box. For the front of the box, we have a nice large image of Iron Man blended in with the Avengers logo surrounded by the cosmos. Now, the box art is laid out mostly the same for each figure in the Avengers lineup. However, they did decide to add a nice metallic effect to the front of the box, which just fits this figure perfectly. Again, this is the version of Iron Man Mark 85 suit that we see in Avengers Endgame, and underneath his name you can see that it says it is a die-cast figure. Quick side note for those of you that are unfamiliar with what a die-cast figure is. Die-cast is the process by which metal alloys are melted and poured into a mold to produce different parts or pieces. This obviously works great for a figure like Iron Man because instead of trying to pass plastic off as metal, they just use actual metal, and that allows the figure to look and feel more realistic while also boosting the overall strength. Moving on to the side of the box, you have Iron Man's printed name, and it's the same for the top and bottom. And then for the back, you have all of your trademarks, logos, and warnings. Now, this is actually a cover that slides off and reveals an inner styrofoam case. You can see that it's a black or dark gray styrofoam with Mark 85 on the top. And if I pop this off, you have Iron Man laying flat with all of his accessories. Now just removing the plastic. This is my first Iron Man, so I'm going to be biased, but first impressions, I'm absolutely digging this figure. So there are two layers, a top and bottom layer with multiple accessories. So what I'm going to do is get all of these accessories laid out onto the table so that we can take a closer look. So in-game Iron Man doesn't come with a whole lot of accessories, but honestly, that's okay. Hot Toys probably spent the bulk of their budget for this figure on the figure itself. But let's just take a look at the head sculpt first, since this is the most talked about piece of this figure. There was and is a lot of negative opinions on the likeness of the head sculpt to Robert Downey Jr., so much so that Hot Toys decided to revise the figure with an older head sculpt from previous Iron Man releases. But honestly, I think this head sculpt is actually pretty good. I think it does capture how Robert Downey Jr. appeared in Endgame. I know some of the complaints were that the face is skinnier, the nose is longer, but I mean, he was skinnier in Endgame, and maybe it's not 100% perfect, but I definitely feel it's better than what most critics are saying it is. There's a lot of beautiful detail. It's painted really well. I am pretty happy with this. And I mean, besides, even if you have it on your figure at a distance, you're not going to be able to really tell. You're going to look and you're going to say, hey, yeah, that is Robert Downey Jr. And for some of the other accessories that they did include, we get a nano lightning refocuser. Now this piece is seen in one of the final battles of Endgame between Iron Man and Thanos. This piece looks super good. It's very glossy and it's sculpted well with a lot of detail. Really the only negative is that it doesn't have any articulation or movement in these pieces, but it's very easy to add to the figure. You just attach it to the back and it's going to give your Iron Man a lot more presence while it's being displayed. Here you can see that Hot Toys provided some tools to help assist you with putting together or taking apart Iron Man, and you can see that they have all of the different batteries that will be inserted into Iron Man to help with the light up functions that I'll show you in just a little bit. Moving on to the hands, Hot Toys provided two sets of sculpted hands, and there are some big differences between each one of them. The big difference being that this hand specifically has articulation in the fingers. You can see that each finger can be moved individually at multiple spots, allowing for a vast amount of posing possibilities. Again, the paint application for both sets of hands is very well done, and each hand has a repulsor that can be lit up, which you will see a little bit later. The other sculpted hand has this gold paint around the knuckles, which better matches the look of the suit. However, it is fixed in this position. But I really enjoy the hand sculpts. I think they were very well crafted. So they did add this little neck piece for the head sculpt. When you pop off the Iron Man helmet, you can add this piece and then the head sculpt inside of it, just like that. That way, there's no awkwardness with the neck and the suit lining up. Now let's take a closer look at the Nano Gauntlet. I'm really loving that they added this piece. I know that the Battle Damage Endgame Iron Man will also have a Nano Gauntlet, but I'm glad that Hot Toys threw one in for this figure as well. The paint on this glove matches the suit, and the sculpt is absolutely amazing. There is articulation in the fingers, so you can make that snapping gesture. And the Infinity Stones also glow. They'll light up, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But overall, this is a great addition to this figure. Lastly, let's take a look at the base. Hot Toys provided a hexagonal base with a flight pull and a waist grabber. The base has the Avengers logo with Iron Man's name printed on the front. There is some texture to the surface of the base, and then the area with the A is very smooth and glossy. This is a nice base, and I really like it. So now let's get Iron Man himself out here and take a closer look at him. Now that I have Iron Man out here, first off, I just want to note that he is a very heavy figure. Obviously, that's because of all the added die cast, but he really does weigh a lot. He's definitely one of the heaviest figures that I own. He's probably one of the heaviest 1/6 scale Iron Mans out there. But taking a closer look at his body, I love the gold and red color scheme and the metallic sheen that catches your eyes when the figure is being moved. The body is made up of all of these movable pieces, and yet it still looks like a seamless suit of armor. Hot Toys did a phenomenal job at creating a near perfect movie accurate replica of in-game Iron Man. Plus, the design and engineering behind this figure is amazing. I love that they added all of the different lighting effects, which really brings this Iron Man to life. So speaking about the lighting, let me show you quickly how that works. There are different areas on this figure that can easily be removed that will reveal switches. And then you can hit these switches and turn the lights on. Now, I do want to tell you that it was a pain for me to get all of the batteries inserted into the different areas of this figure. Each spot had like three little batteries that you had to put in, and every time I'd go to put the second one in, the first one would shoot out, and then I'd have to go search the floor for that one. I was struggling. I was losing my mind, but I eventually was able to get all of the batteries put into place and get it fully functional. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to remove those pieces, hit those switches, and come back with this figure fully lit up. So here he is fully lit up, and I left off some of the pieces so that I can easily turn him off again. But there are a ton of lights on this figure. You got his eyes, you have several lights on his torso and chest, and then on his back. You also have his gloves with the repulsors and the nano gauntlet. You can see a slight glow with the infinity stones. This would be easier to see if I didn't have all these bright lights shining down on him. But I love that they added all of these different lighting effects. It really just makes it look so much better. All right, now for some articulation. Let's see how movable Iron Man actually is. Starting off with his head, the head is attached to the neck with a ball joint. You have forward, backward movement, side to side, some 360 rotation if you like. And then the neck itself is also on a joint, so you can get a little bit of forward, a little bit back, a little side to side. Next, the arms. Now, the arms can actually be pulled away from the shoulders, just like this. Gives you a little bit of a gap in between there for, movement, so you don't have to worry about the armor pieces, scraping against each other. You can bring the arm up to 90 degrees. Just got to be careful. You can see that shoulder pad starts to touch the shoulder, so just be aware of that. If you bring that back down, there's a little bit of up and down movement within that shoulder, just a little bit. Now, there's a small amount of bicep swivel right there, and then a double bend at the elbow. And you saw that. That's really cool that there's this armor piece on the bicep that actually slides up to allow for a deeper angle right there. And then your hands are on your regular wrist joints, so a little bit of a spin right there. Now moving on to the torso, I kind of already expanded it, but there is a little bit of movement when it's just crunched up like this. You can move it forward, side to side, a little bit of rotation. But what's really cool is you can actually expand it out just like that, and it gives you a much more deeper range of motion, side to side, swivel, all that good stuff. So that's pretty awesome. For the legs, both legs can be pulled down, giving a little bit more height. You could hear those clicks. Before moving it in any other direction, I would pull up these little pieces so that you don't have to worry about it crashing into the suit. But you can get about a 45-degree extension this way, and then forward you can get all the way up to 90. Backwards probably another 45, just like that. So that's pretty awesome right there with that little extension. You get a little bit of a thigh swivel, and then double bend at the knee, and then your regular Iron Man boot joint. A little bit of side to side and forward and backwards. For the last part of this video, I just want to give my final thoughts on the Endgame Iron Man. There's really not much to dislike. I will say that I had one issue, and that was with the shoulder pad. I noticed that the spring on it quickly got tweaked so that the pad doesn't push or sit as closely as it did out of the box. This isn't a huge issue, and it won't be noticeable when I'm posing Iron Man, but it was a little bit of a bummer. I also wish they would have included a couple more accessories. Specifically, it would have been nice if they added some flame or thrust effects for the repulsors and boots, and maybe even the nano shield that is seen in the movies. But even with those small complaints aside, honestly, this figure is amazing. I know I said this earlier, but Hot Toys really went all out on this Iron Man, and it definitely shows. I'm so glad that I picked him up, and I know he's going to be a focal point in my Marvel Endgame collection. So that really wraps up this video. Thank you guys for joining in and watching another unboxing. I had a lot of fun with this figure, and I'm glad I got to share that experience with you. Like always, thank you, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.